Welcome to PartnerOps Partner. I'm your host, Aaron Howerton, and in our ongoing series this year, where I've actually decided to let other people talk in my space because I'm a very generous person. This week, I have Rob Rebholz. Rob is coming from Superglue. He's a CEO. He's a founder. Superglue's been around for a couple of years. I'll let Rob tell you about that. But Rob, welcome to PartnerOps Partner. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
You've been a very kind, I think, with your time with me historically. We've gotten to know each other through Superglue, and I don't actually remember like the first time we met. It might have been Supernode. Were you at Supernode, the original? Or
I was in Philadelphia. Yeah.
Okay.
That was awesome.
Yeah. So I went to the first year, did not go to the second year. I met loads of people there. I think that's where we connected, but I'm not actually sure. I don't know. We've been talking off and on for a couple of years. I love your platform, even though I've never used it. Full disclosure for anyone who's listening, I can endorse Superglue because I've talked to people who've used it. They have seen a lot of really great success with what it does for them. And also I appreciate Rob's values. So as a tech founder, Rob, open up, tell me a little about what Superglue does, short, brief, and then tell me some of the values that drive your company and why you built it. I'd love to put that on the table.
So I keep the pitch very short. So ultimately what we're building is a digital assistant for partner teams that helps them to engage the people in the ecosystem and ultimately source more referrals. And that then helps sales teams work effectively with partners. Right, it kind of aligns them with partners without forcing them to change their workflows, look for data in portals or Salesforce, etc. Just create a very frictionless experience.
Okay. In that, I'm going to ask you some questions because you've already hinted toward some alignment things, right? And my beef with like partner tech, I think it is typically that, and not just partner tech, I think it's all tech. Like we're just inundated. Salespeople have tools all over the place, and most people don't need one more tool. They need the tools they have to be more effective, or they need insights or help doing the right activity. I think this is where I feel like Superglue is unique. So when you're talking about helping the sales team, you're not saying, hey, here's another tool that my AEs have to go log into and pay attention to, right? That's not the case.
Yeah. I have pretty strong opinions about near-bound selling and the future of, ecosystem growth. I think we're overwhelming sales teams. Like we forget how busy they are, how overwhelmed they already are with tools. They have like 50 tools in parallels, and they have their manager kicking their butt. They have to fill this field, look this up, etc. This framework, that framework. So I think we have to, rather than add another tool, add another data point, we have to make frictionless. I mean, and again, I'm biased. The way we do this is we look at deals that AEs are working on, identify that were in trouble, right? Like the deal might be stuck, for instance, figure out like which partner could help. For instance, the partner that sourced that deal, alert them in real time in Slack where they already work. Tell me, here's why you get this notification. Here's why we think you need help. This is the partner to help you. Do you want help? Yes or no? And they just have to click a button. And that is stuff actually works, right? I think because A, we meet them where they already work. B, we meet them when they actually need us and need a partner. And C, we make it very easy to initiate the process of, there's a bunch of stuff that happens after that, but we make it very easy to initiate the process of working with partners.
So you need access to data. I'll clarify this too, for like an operational technical standpoint, right? You need access to data that's in the CRM. But you are not asking for anyone to put Superglue in the CRM for users to engage with. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, we connect to your CRM and we use that data in your CRM. The way in which we're unique, and maybe we can get more technical here since this is PartnerOps.
As you want.
What we do, the challenge with traditional workflow tools and like marketing automation tools, etc., is that they're very, you for example have a contact that goes through a workflow, and that's, for example, based on an opportunity and a customer account. What we do in Superglue, when you set up triggers, when you configure the tool, we let you merge the partner data you have in Salesforce, partner accounts, etc., or partners that are in custom objects with the with opportunities and opportunity data and customer data. And we bring that into one workflow, into triggers, but then also into the different stages of the workflow that then happens.
I think what you're hitting on there too. So, and again, we can get as opposite as we want to get on this call because that's my audience and my prerogative. But I think about what you do, right? I think the natural comparison for a lot of people is, oh, okay, so your outreach or your sales loft for partner people. And I think there is some connection, right? I've used outreach, I've used sales loft, I've set that up. The idea that these tools are used for sequencing, and then all those companies have that battle of like, well, who controls the sequencing messaging? Is it marketing, or can I as a sales manager go do that? And then what's happened with those tools, by and large, from the people I've talked to experience, is like, great, what we've done is we push mass marketing email cold calls down to the rep level, and we're still not doing anything a whole lot more effective because that's not really what they're for. So I think if you think about it, well, the way I think about it is it's like that kind of, but for partnership people, but it's also not that. That's not what you're building. You're not building sequences for mass marketing email. You're building, you mentioned it, triggers, workflows, very specific strategies for engagement.
Yes, I think it's a great comparison, because what outreach and sales loft and these tools do well is they give you the ability, right? They have a workflow, a cadence, which is basically a sequence of emails and maybe calls and LinkedIn messages, and they give you the ability to customize those. In theory, right? Like you should actually customize them, add some personalization, etc. So we're similar in terms of giving the partner manager the ability to customize the messaging. But there are lots of differences if you look at the details, right? Like, first of all, in our case, you don't push contacts or lists into, like you said, right, into a into a cadence. But Superglue identifies touch points, things that happen in your ecosystem from your CRM data, right? Like, I mean,
and this is happening like in real time though, right? This is also not like, hey, we're going to do this on triggers. It's looking for systematic change. If a thing changes, or if you mentioned it, let's say we have an opportunity that's languishing at a stage, you can set a trigger to say, hey, after 3 days of no activity, again, access to the fields and the data. But if we see this, now we should send an email to the AE asking, hey, do you need help? Can we get the partner back engaged? That kind of thing, right?
Exactly. And that's the second thing where we're very different. If you look at the actual workflow, like an outreach workflow is very linear, right? I bombard somebody with emails till they get on a call.
3 days do this. Send a LinkedIn message. 4 days later, send another email. 2 days later, send another email until they unsubscribe, right? Or they respond.
Exactly. And with the Superglue workflow, we don't just have one person. Like if we're talking about co-selling, for example, we have the partner, we have the AE. So there might be a Slack notification that goes to the AE, right? You need what we just talked about. You need help. If they click yes, the second message could be a multi-stakeholder email that is sent from the partner manager's email inbox, connecting the AE with the partner contact. We're like, hey, our AE told me that they're struggling with this deal. Can you help them? And then the next step might not be that we just want to reply. The next step might be a wait step, and then we check whether the deal actually moved into the next stage. And if it didn't, that might trigger another step in this workflow. So it's a bit more. In certain regards, it's more complex, more capable. Obviously, outreach sales loft, they have a million features that we will never have. I love that.
I think one of the things that I think is really unique about your solution, and one, I get it. So having worked in partner operations, one of the things that I think we connected on up front is your goal. I'll state it and you push back if I'm wrong, but your goal is to build a tool for partner people managed by partner people.
Yeah.
So you've got something where it's designed so that the PAMs or the CAMs or whoever your partner people are can get in and have some ownership over a solution meant to drive their workflow. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like when we look at other go-to-market departments, right? The sales team has outreach, sales engagement tools. The marketing team obviously has marketing automation tools. The customer success, there are awesome customer success tools that have help the team kind of identify, like with health scores and all of that cool stuff. And if you look at partnerships, Salesforce and Gmail, right? Like, and that's just not enough. And PRMs,
It's not ignoring the whole thing. Franz has been, Franz, I believe, right? He has been
great guy.
He's been very kindly tagging me into what has turned out to be, it feels like some pretty spicy conversations on his thread this week with different PRM vendors as they show up. So it might be a worthwhile call out that when I look at Superglue, I don't look at a platform that is a PRM or is trying to be a PRM. And I don't think that's anywhere on your roadmap of like, cool, we want to overtake and overcome all this other tech, right?
The way I see it, I have a MarTech background. I worked with, in my previous life, I built a company in the MarTech space. And, when you look at marketing automation, B2C marketing, if you work with e-commerce vendors, they have an e-commerce website. That's where people buy stuff. That's where people learn about their products, etc. And then you have a loyalty program. And the loyalty program makes sure that you retain them relationship, that you meet people where they are, that you engage them, keep them excited, builds trust. So that at some point in time, they go to your website and look at stuff and ultimately buy stuff. And to me, the portal is the website, right? It's a destination. I want people to go there to do training, submit leads, to do whatever I want them to do in these, right? In the
it has its place.
Exactly. But the idea that people just show up and do the stuff by themselves without you proactively being there, engaging them, maintaining a relationship, I think is flawed. So in that regard, we're complementary, right? We make sure like portal adoption has become an unexpected important use case of ours amongst all the others. Because you could say, hey, here you do lunch and learn. Here's your portal login link. Go in there and take care of yourself. Or you could look at what your partner contact actually does, what they're interested in at the right time. You're like, by the way, you just submitted your first referral. Here's more information, or hey, we had this call X days ago, you haven't engaged, you should check this out. Or just depending on where they are in their personal life cycle. If I now reach out, I'm like, here's the link, and I think this is relevant for you. The probability of somebody clicking on that link, going to the portal, doing what I want them to do is a little higher.
That's true. I think I agree with you on that front. I think we may have talked about that briefly too. Like as you get into this, like with most tech companies, you're finding new and expanded use cases and kind of new opportunities, and maybe getting delightfully surprised, right, by the way that your customers are choosing to engage and use your platform, considering right the way that you kind of intended to design it, which I love to hear about, because that just means there's more roadmap for you, there's more opportunity. But I definitely see your platform as and this is where I think it gets spicy for me. I don't argue that people shouldn't have a PRM. I think that a PRM, kind of like any other technology, it has a use case and it has a right time and a place, and people have been adopting PRM earlier than necessary, or maybe without a strong strategic plan, which makes it struggle, right? And I've talked to those vendors and they'll say the same. I would argue that Superglue is one of those solutions that if I'm going into an early stage company, first, I am focusing on CRM adoption and CRM for partnerships, which is all custom. But as I look at tools, I think Superglue is one of those that I look at as cool, we're not ready for like this full portal, but this is maybe a good next step in terms of tech adoption to support the team and get customized. Are you seeing that with your customer base? Is that a good use case?
That's a really good point, interesting point. Not necessarily. The reason, so what we're seeing is, I think before you implement the portal, you need to look in the mirror and truly ask yourself, do I have the relevance for my partners and to some extent the degree of dominance in the relationship to be able to tell them, you got to go here and you got to use this to do this and that.
Yeah.
Like if I'm a small ISV and I work with the company that I built before Superglue, we were super close with Salesforce and companies like that. Their people are not in a million years I'm going to get these people in my PRM and get them 100%. To say get my certificate. We weren't important enough. They drove, and still to this day drive, like 70% of our revenue, and they bring us into all of our big deals. But they're not going to go in there. I need to meet them where they are. So I need to think about who am I in a relationship? What do I want from the other party? Am I giving them value? And there's a degree of maturity that plays into that. That drives the decision for PRM. Or do I have like a million? Right? If I have more of an affiliate partnership and I have like a million freelancers I work with, you have to take that path. with Superglue, what we've seen in the early days, we work with smaller partner teams that just started out and like, oh, I want to figure this out. And you have the right workflows. You guys have the blueprints. I want to implement those blueprints so I can create scale. And what we've seen is that many of these teams aren't there yet, right? Like if you haven't figured out the process, if you don't have a clear understanding how you drive value and a certain degree of scale in terms of what you do and what your team does, automation is just creates more problems.
Gotcha. So maybe you're automating things you don't I think that makes sense. We haven't talked about this explicitly, so I appreciate the pushback, because when I see it as a tool that you can give early stage partner managers so they have more control over their workflow and over what they're doing and helping them work. But to your point, if there's not a solid understanding of process, I had my last guest, Molly Bodensteiner, we talked about that. Like if you have data, one of the things she said, which I love, is like your data doesn't suck, your process sucks. And if you have bad data, go work on your process and you'll get good data. And what you're calling out is if you're too early, you don't have process built, you don't know how to use this properly. You could implement the automation, but it might get in the way.
Yeah.
Of insight. Okay.
Yeah,
fascinating.
Exactly.
So again, just another thing I like about you. I want to call this out real quick, and then I'll let you talk, guest. I think you might be one of the few tech founders, or even people like selling tech, who would bring a customer on a call and actively say, hey, I don't think you're ready for us. I think it's too early. I don't think this is a good fit, and maybe walk away from a deal. And that's one of the things that I love is I don't think you're willing to get into a contract that's going to be bad for you and the customer just to make the money. Tell me if I'm wrong on that, but that's my read here.
Yeah. I've been burned too often. I like when I built my first SaaS company, I made that mistake too often, right? I overpromised sold stuff that I knew wouldn't deliver. And you end up with churn, right? Like, churn. To be honest, like, as a tech founder, if you want to build a sustainable business, nothing is worse than churn and unhappy customers. People that first year revenue is not everything. It's about, right, like second, third, fourth, fifth year revenue. That's when A, you drive real value for your customer, and B, you build a sustainable business. So I learned it. I wasn't always like that.
Exactly, your first startup. So this is not the first company you built. Let's go over that real quick. How many other companies have you built? 1, 2, 3, 10?
In SaaS, 2. So this is my second company. So I built my first company in the MarTech space, and our customers, pushed us, kind of told us we need to build integrations, and I didn't know anything about partnerships at the time, but the customer demand was there, and that's where I figured out that this is a beautiful way to to scale a company and grow a company.
So let's talk about that. That's a completely different thing too. So I've talked to Jesse, like I'm close to Jesse, and we kind of all live in this. I think maybe a bit of an echo chamber on some of this, but this is also I think maybe part of where partnership's going. What you just said is the last company you were pushed to build integrations. It sounded like that was probably a negative experience. Can you hear somebody is calling me? I need to decline that. The Slack is dancing over here. I'm like, I don't know why. God, do not disturb on. It's live. It's a live recording, y'all. This is going to be in the podcast. You're saying basically at a prior company, you were pushed to do a lot of integrations, and that compromised the quality of your product, the quality you delivered. And in this company, you're not doing that then? You're not looking to solve every problem? Maybe partnering to solve problems is more important?
Well, actually what happened, we built a tool, and people are like, this is great, but if you would integrate this with our marketing automation tools, then you truly add value for us. So we went out and built integrations. At the time, I just didn't, at the time I still lived in Germany, and I think in Europe overall.
You're from Germany. I'm kidding.
I know. I'm like, nobody can tell. I've got the buffalo in the background, obviously.
You're Montanian, right? Is that what they call you now?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
There you go. Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I didn't have the partnerships in Europe are less, sophisticated. People are, I think it's just, all the big tech companies are in the US. This is just, people here are more, advanced when it comes to partnerships. So I didn't have any sparring partners. I didn't know that this was a smart way to grow the business, but it made sense. So my thing as a founder was always, I was always keen to find ways to acquire customers with less effort, less cost, right? Like just in more efficient ways and in more sustainable ways. So to me, like partnerships and integrations instantly made sense. It worked from we made a million mistakes, but fundamentally it worked from day one and really put the company on a different growth trajectory. And so
we mean Superglue?
The previous company.
Oh, okay.
Previous company, yeah. And then with Superglue, obviously, I took all my insights from building a partner ecosystem, working with big partners, all the challenges I faced, and in my MarTech background, and applied it.
Right. I think so. Your company is another example of one of the things that I've heard routinely. I don't come from a business background. I've gotten into SaaS on my own. My degree is political science, right? So I've built a career on my own without a lot of guidance. But one of the things,
I want to hear that story one day. I want to hear that story.
You have a podcast and bring me on. The challenge I think you talked about right there, like basically Superglue for you then solves a problem that you had, right? Which is the most common way to start a business. People want to start a business. Yes, there's a lot of things, like if you just want to have revenue and money and you're not passionate, go build a franchise. Those things are great. But if you are wanting to build something original, start and look at where you need problems, and you've done that. So you built something that solved your problem. You are in what? Is this 2 years now? Or you're coming up or this is your 3? Where are we at?
3, yeah.
3 years. Okay. Which congratulations. You're kind of working toward that hump of like the 5-year curve, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Targeting. Okay. So as you get into the conversations with customers, let's talk PartnerOps specifically. How often are you seeing PartnerOps in the call, right? Are you seeing a need for PartnerOps? Are you seeing lots more people? Is it just a gap? What's going on?
For us in our conversations with companies, there's nothing I love more than having PartnerOps on the call.
We love you.
Partner. No, seriously, like PartnerOps or RefOps. Right? I had a call yesterday where the head of RefOps and one of their teammates, and it's just very often it's not the case, because very often I feel like the partner team doesn't have access to the RefOps team. And they're kind of scared of the RefOps team. They're kind of scared to ask for stuff. And that's a problem. Like, I mean, for us, that impacted how we built Superglue. So the way we built the platform is that, like, I literally tell people, I'm like, the technical integration of Superglue takes 15 minutes into Salesforce, Gmail, Slack, Crossbeam, etc. And you can tell your RefOps team, we don't need any customization. We just need them on one call. We're going to get this done, and then we can start working. Potentially, if we do, fancy stuff down the road, we might need them, but we need them for 15, 30 minutes. And that's a huge barrier that we just get out of the way.
Yeah.
However, those cases where RefOps actually committed, or where we have PartnerOps committed, like they're committed, they understand what the partner team is trying to achieve, they create structure in the background, they have their own ideas. That's just when things get fun, because then you don't have to, that removes a lot of barriers, and all of a sudden you can do things that are a lot more sophisticated and that drive a lot more value for the team. Because very often it's just that's not there, which is part of our onboarding process. In the past, we were just like, Superglue is so easy to use. Here's your access. Do great things.
Yeah,
you check in with them, down the road. And
that's the standard for SaaS, right? Like you sign up, you use it, and let me make sure you send the checks, and let me know if you need help. That's like what I would call true. Jesse and I argue about this. That's like true SaaS. That's the golden standard. That's how you keep your CAC low and your costs low. What you're saying, it sounds like that's less of a successful approach. You need to be a little bit more hands-on. Yeah,
doesn't work. We've become more and more hands-on, especially in the cases where PartnerOps isn't involved, where we literally sit down with people as part of our kickoff and we talk about their goals, current processes. Very often there isn't much there, but just like what are you doing, and then we dive into the data. We literally normally we spend an hour just going through a Salesforce, being like, show us the data, show us how you work with that data, show us what you do, show us what that means. Talk to us about how you incentivize, what you're struggling with. And, after that call, we have a really good understanding, and we can actually go out and be like, and we load the first automations into people's accounts. We just, pre-build some with a lot of blueprints, and then they can come in and they just need to customize that stuff. If we have PartnerOps, usually the approach is a bit different because PartnerOps takes more charge. They have a better, they obviously know more, and they work with us, and we just, everything obviously becomes more more comprehensive, more holistic, etc.
Yeah, but your system is accessible to the end user, right? Like so I'll sort of clarify and kind of standardize some of the language. You say blueprint, that sounds like a pre-configured workflow, right? Essentially, you get in, here's a blueprint for a workflow that should work, make some minor changes based on your data, and you're off to the races kind of thing. But you don't hide any of that behind admin walls, I don't think, right? Like your PAMs have access to that based on permissions, or if PartnerOps is there, they can do it. Or if that's living in RevOps and they're interested, they can do it. What's one of the problems you talk about getting into like the CRM view? What are some of the common problems you see when people are like when you ask somebody in a partnership, hey, show me your CRM? I imagine like that's lots of crickets, lots of stares. Like we don't use the CRM. Is that accurate, or what are you seeing right now?
I mean, to some extent, I still talk to partner teams, like even big partner teams or partner teams in reputable big companies that are literally tell me, no, got all my partner data in a G sheet. That for us is a disqualification criteria, right? Like, because you don't. Yeah, because I mean, theoretically, you could connect us via Zapier to G sheet, but to quite frank, the G sheet doesn't auto update. It doesn't work. So if you have data in a G sheet, doesn't work. When it comes to your CRM setup, I mean, we have different degrees of sophistication that we see. We do have, and I have to say that the companies we work with are getting bigger and bigger. So we see more and more sophisticated, data structures. But we do have cases where, I mean, the data is well less maintained than, for example, in sales, because in sales usually you have a sales leader that kicks everybody's butt at the end of the week, right? And people run reports and this and that. You don't have that in partnership so much. So there's a bit of a data quality issue. And we've had cases where people just didn't even synchronize emails, etc. So we don't have last activity date. And that's where things get a bit trickier. And we've had cases where we said like, hey, take a step back, clean this up, and then we continue to work. But then, in most cases, I think people do have more data than they think they do. Sure. Or there's more that you can do with the data that you have, right? Like, I mean, my favorite example is just, now we're just talking about partner activation. I mean, the last activity field is a standard Salesforce field. And that tells me, again, if I synchronize my emails and every now and then map my calls, or, log my calls, that tells me who I'm neglecting. That tells me, that helps me build reactivation flows as a very simple example. It gets interesting when we go to co-selling, right? When we talk about like, how do you attach partners to opportunities? Do you do it via custom field? Do you just have the partner attached, or the partner and the partner contact? Do you have a custom object? How do you work with these custom objects? We're currently doing a lot of hyperscaler stuff where you have, right, like the ACE object for AWS, for example, that like, it gets really interesting with that stuff. And
valuable knowledge, though, I'll say that, like to get into the hyperscalers and work in their architecture, because to your point before, like you go work with AWS, you don't tell AWS what to do. They tell you, here's how the program works, here's where you send information. And so their architecture becomes really important, because for you as a vendor, if you understand that, great. If you're doing that kind of work, we can help you specifically with these vendors. And that's where that's why you hire people as, hey, we're looking for a Salesforce rep to come and manage our Salesforce relationship, because good Lord, that shit's complex. And we need somebody who knows Salesforce and can help us be successful, because we don't want to, like, that's the whole value. So that's hugely valuable for you. But the insight I think that we're hinting toward here too, a couple of things I want to call out. One is, again, you're willing to look at a customer and look at this stuff and be like, oh, that's a disqualify. I'm sorry, we can't work with you until this is elevated to the next level, right? And that's something I just don't think happens, honestly, in partner tech, right? When you get into big deals, not just partner tech, let's be fair. That's where we work, so I'm biased. But I think it's not in most companies' best interest, right? If you want to buy software and we've got a problem or itch we can scratch, they're just closing the deals. Your internal architecture is on you. You could probably absolutely close those deals first, and then be like, okay, well, once they're in, we can turn you on, but you've already started paying. So contract renews in a year. But that's a crap way to do business, right?
And it kills you. That's ultimately kills you.
Okay. Sorry, that was just one thing I want to call that out, because once again, as I talk to vendors, for the people in my community, this is what we deal with. And a lot of times partner ops, it feels like maybe you're seeing it more often. It sounds like at least you're getting rev ops on the call. And I've been looking for the right audience for partner ops. I don't know that it's partnership leader people, like they know they need ops. I don't think that's the question. It's the rev ops people who don't know partnership rhythms, and the partnership rhythms are more than resellers. Right now we have OEM, we have tech, we have agency, we've got referral models. Like we have so many different types of programs we could run that go beyond the typical reseller stuff. And that's where that partner ops comes into play. Yeah. And I think you at least see that. I think you respect that. And I appreciate that about the way you run. Because what I've seen is, I come into a field or to a company and it's like, oh, well, we bought the PRM, we're already moving, but it's not going well. We're hiring you because you have the right skill set to fix it. And I'm like, you should have hired me a year ago and let me help you make this decision. Yeah. So I appreciate. I just say that from all the partner ops people, all our people, thank you for not signing up people that can't use your product, because it is such a headache. Because then they look at us and they're like, well, why haven't you got it live yet? Because Rob shouldn't have sold it to us. That's why. Man. Okay. Let's move on to the next thing real quick. We're kind of getting close to the end. I think it seems around like 30 to 40 minutes. I think the problem with you, Rob, I bet you do this a lot. Like you drive a lot of energy for me. Like you gotta, people, if you're listening, by the way, you should go watch the YouTube, because Rob has one of the best smiles you will ever see. It is like permanently attached to it. He hears this all the time. So this is just me rinsing and repeating what he already knows about himself. This is worth watching. Rob just drives a lot of energy. Rob, you're a very positive person. I think you're looking to help people. I think that authenticity comes across there. So we talked about common challenges are like they don't have accounts in the system, they don't have contacts in the system, they're not structured in their CRM. That's a disqualifier for your tech. Is that right? I'm hearing that right? Yeah. Okay. So in terms of partner ops people, what are you gonna say? Go.
I was going to say, since we talked about that, and it's a topic we talked about recently. I mean, on one hand, yes, we can do a lot more with the stuff that's usually in people systems. But obviously, if I have a good partner ops setup, and if I have people that have thought about like what I want to do, what I want to track, that just opens so many doors, like custom objects attached to opportunity, attaching, partners via custom objects to opportunities. That's when it gets magical, right? Like when I hear that stuff, when I see a not over-engineered, because you have that too, right? I've had cases where people totally over-engineered stuff and nobody had a clue anymore. When we look into Salesforce, I'm like, that's a partner field. I don't know what it is. This is I don't know what it is. We don't use any of them. But if I have a solid setup that is geared towards the partner team's goals and tracking, etc., transparency, man, it's just like you can. That's when everything comes together and you can really drive success. And that's why I'm so keen to involve refops or partner ops. I'm also keen to try to educate them. Right, we're on these calls and very often like, why can't we use the marketing automation tool? Why can't we use this? We've got this tool in sales, and you need to tell them why dealing with partners is not the same as selling products.
100%, right? It adds a different level of complexity to the relationship. That's what I'm finding. Like the longer I work in this space, and I've only been in partnership world about 5 years, and I've been in and around partner ops that whole time in different capacities, always kind of working back toward it. What I continually find is that the idea of working with partners, it's not ubiquitous. It's not spread throughout the organization, and people typically do it as an extension of what they're doing, but not holistically. And if there's nobody driving that, hey, CS and services, here's what we're looking for partner engagement installers, and here's the experience we want them to have. Like, no one owns that. Partnership people have had to pass that over, and then they move on to go sign up more partners. But then this other thing lives kind of ambiguously with CS, who doesn't really know what they're doing yet or doesn't have a priority. I see that a lot in terms of talking to people. And I feel like for me, that is at least one of my personal responsibilities. I take that with me. If I'm in partner ops at a company, I believe part of my role is advocacy for partner experience and partner rhythms into the rest of the org. I don't like to sit on rev ops. I don't like territory splits. I don't like messing with commissions. I don't really like doing deal management and approvals. Like there are people that like that stuff and they live in rev ops, and I'm happy to advise them on how to work with partners and let rev ops own their portion. Same thing with marketing and CS. I just view myself more as that internal advocate. Your partner leaders are out there doing the partner management. They're building relationships. They're developing program ideas. I'm inside championing those things and trying to drive that visibility. And so more of like a project manager is where my skill sets come. Yeah. Anyways, I think that jives with what you're saying is when you get into it, you take it intentionally, you will find more success in organizations that have intentionally focused on partnership rhythms, in particular within their CRM, because sounds like that's where you're pulling most of your data. Is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're aligned on that, right? I think that data belongs into the CRM.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a hot topic. We'll mince words, right? If you go into LinkedIn, it's all the time. I think you can mince words all the time. Like I'll always take issue with the PRM being the foundation, because I still think that's the case. The data has to move out of the PRM into where everyone's getting access. But to your point, CS has Gainsight. They don't work in Salesforce. They work through Gainsight, which is plugged into Salesforce, right?
Exactly.
So the PRMs can provide an experience layer for your partner managers even. I think to me, that's the gap. So I'm focused on let's make a good experience in Salesforce. Let's get it ready for partner tech. And in particular, I still think you're pre-PRM tech, in my opinion, right? If I'm building a program in a tech stack, I would still say, hey, you know what? We're getting to this complexity. We need some of this stuff. I would still look to bring in a Superglue to offset some of that automation now that we know our process and rhythm, work on connection before we go PRM. That's just my opinion.
There are ways. I mean, we've seen it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, man. Hey, listen, we're over time. We're at time. I've had a great time. Thanks for joining us. I don't think there's probably a million questions that I didn't ask. Is there anything else you want to leave, like with the PartnerOps community? Any predictions you have, trends you have, anything you want us to know about that'll help us be more successful as we adopt partner tech, anything like that?
I mean, it's rather a call out to partnership leaders. I think partnership leaders, if you want to be successful, build great relationships with RevOps. Try to get a PartnerOps person, a capable PartnerOps person on your side, because that can change everything. I think you can't. I think we're also aligned on that, right? Partnerships is not an art; it's a science, just like everything else. There's an element of art, just like in everything else, like sales. It's every part of the business where you interact with other people, but make it a science. And to do that, you need RevOps support. Otherwise, you can't. Otherwise, you're stuck messing around. Just you're running in circles, and you're not creating a scalable program that will sustainably drive revenue. And that's why people get fired.
I agree. Keywords you said, scalable. That's the thing where people fall down all the time because process automation doesn't exist. It hadn't been thought through. Okay, Rob, people can find you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Clearly. Search you there. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. Awesome. Also, superglue.io, right? Get the domain correct. Reach out to Rob. Listen, if you go to Rob and you let Rob know that you heard this episode and you came to talk to him because Aaron interviewed him, he will probably say thank you. That's about it. I don't know that he's had any free swag.
No, you get special Aaron friend treatment, obviously.
There you go. And that'll get you an extra percentage of niceness, which is hard to come by because Rob's already pouring it on. Rob, thank you so much for joining. I would love to have you back sometime too, as we continue to evolve, as I continue to evolve this conversation with people in your space. What I'm hoping to, audience, is that I hope this has been useful. I hope you learned a little bit about Superglue, at least an idea of its use case and how to be ready for this particular solution. I think that's a huge gap in the industry. How do you get ready for partner tech? And Rob's been pretty clear, I think, on those pieces. So reach out to Rob. Let him know if you have questions. Reach out to me. Thank you for joining me, as always. Until next week, good luck partnering.